All right. I'm going to share
All
it.
all right, everybody. Welcome to the Best Boys Center Ice Podcast 2025 Stanley Cup Playoffs wrap-up show for games played on the April 27th. We had a full Sunday slate of games that started at 12 noon and just ended a few moments ago with the Oilers overtime win against the Kings. We'll get into that in just a second. There was other games earlier, some surprises. Well, some surprises in St. Louis and the other games.
Washington, Montreal,
Washington and
too.
Montreal was
Yeah.
a bit of a surprise, and so we're going to start going back to a game and a situation that is, if you're a Winnipeg Jets fan,
Oh, boy. You are very concerned if you are the Jets. You are very,
very concerned.
Yep, for the
Because what was looking like, okay, we're talking about the President's Trophy winner for most points in the regular season, one of the favorites to win it all. And they had the goaltenders were going to win another Vezina Trophy and possibly an MVP. And for the second game in a row, they pulled Connor Hellebuck. And that it's unbelievable to think about pulling Hellebuck in any game, but two games in a row in the playoffs.
Yep. I mean, this has been a problem now. I mean, you might have been able to write off last game, but to have it happen again, where last season he did the same thing in the playoffs where he just stunk it up the whole time. And the big reason the Jets didn't make it far, they only went 5 games against Colorado, is because he couldn't stop the puck. And now you got St. Louis, who in these 2 games at home scored 12 goals at home.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the key to success to beating that team, and they've way outplayed the Jets. I mean, really, if you look at it, the whole series, they stayed in it really well, and Winnipeg just didn't win the games, and then they come home and they beat the tar out of Winnipeg both games. It wasn't even close. The games were, 15 minutes left in the game. Even 10 minutes left in the game, it's over. Like, they're up 4 or 5 goals. Like, it's not good for the Jets. If there's any team in that series that has a reason to be concerned, it's definitely the Jets. I mean, they President's Trophy winners, and they're not looking like that. They're getting ran over by the Blues.
I don't want to say a team that,
But a more inexperienced group, because
inexperienced.
they're young guys. A lot of the young guys there that haven't really played in the playoffs before. You've got some guys like Braden Shen, who won the cup there when they won in 19, and Parayko, but Bennington, of course, too, was their goalie when they won the cup. But other than that, there's a lot of these guys who haven't played before. Like, what's his name? The new rookie Snuggerud. He scored his first goal in in game two, but he's a rookie. Even the other guys like Bolduc. You even look at Broberg, who had his first taste of playoff hockey last year, and now he's a mainstay there. There's a lot of young pieces, and for that, you have to be very excited to be a Blues fan right now, because even if they don't win this series, this is going to be a team now that's going to be kicking around for the next little while.
This is going to be a team that's going to make some noise in the
Central. You know what? I like watching them play. And before, like, even when they won the cup, they were a good team, but I never was really intrigued by their playing style. I like the way they play. They play really tough, but they're able to light it up at the same time and score a lot. And I think they're almost kind of overlooked as being that scoring team, that they can really put the puck in the net if you're not careful.
Yeah. I've watched the Blues a couple of times late in the season against the Oilers, and they play really, really well against the big teams. And I think you look at a young team in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and again, we talked about it before the series even started. They've got nothing to lose, and they come back and they just beat up on Winnipeg 2 games in a row at home. Their series is now tied, and anything can happen. And if they've gotten to Hellebuck, and if he can't turn things around, Hellebuck is the reason why the Jets are where they're at.
Well, the Blues are the hottest team right now out of all of them. I mean, they ended the season so well, the last like 15, 20 games, and now they've continued playing well the entire time. I mean, that's a slippery slope for the Jets, and I think if you're St. Louis, just keep playing the carefree way they're playing. They're getting stuff done. I mean, they have no pressure on them. no expectations to beat the Jets, so might as well just play your hearts out, and they are, and I mean,
When
they're beating them up on them.
when you look at it, the Jets have been, or the Blues have been playing playoff hockey for a few weeks now, just trying to get into the playoffs. So they've already been playing these tough,
Yeah,
hard
and
nosed,
and
exciting games.
people wrote off the Jets like it was, or the Blues, it was going to be a quick series, like a 5 gamer. I'm like, no
Yeah,
way. I mean, you gotta know they've been playing super hard. They're not going to just quit after they've just got to the playoffs now.
right.
They want to keep going. They want to play against Dallas or Colorado and keep it going. But yeah, big game there in St. Louis, and then you shifted out east for the next one, and it was New Jersey against Carolina again. I didn't really, honestly, I didn't watch this game very much. I kept track of it on the NHL app, but the Canes, as you see on the top left corner of the bracket, or on the top left corner of my updates, the Canes won today. That was a 5-2 final score, I
Yeah, five to
believe.
two. Yeah, 5-2 is the
So,
final.
I mean, this was the Devils' best chance, obviously, to take it over and try to tie it up with Anderson getting hurt in this game, and they didn't take advantage, and they have a
Hmm.
lot of bodies out, but they just didn't take advantage. And I think so far the series, for the most part, has gone the way that we thought. They won Game 3 at home in overtime, and now
Hmm.
they're going to go back to Carolina, and I mean, most likely probably not win there because the Canes are just playing a lot better than they are, and you know it's just one of those series we weren't looking forward to at the beginning. Didn't really think it was going to be that entertaining, and it's pretty much lived up to what it was supposed to be, a short 4 or 5 gamer series.
Yeah. So again, New Jersey now down 3 games to one, going back into Raleigh
Raleigh.
for the game five. I just
That's
don't
a hard
see.
arena. That's a hard arena for a
Yeah,
visiting team to win a game in for sure.
yeah. I just don't see New
Them
Jersey
winning
coming up
it.
with a win in
No.
Carolina.
No, the
So
Canes don't want to go back to Jersey. They want to get
uh,
it done in front of their fans and get some time off,
yeah,
while we watch Montreal and Washington kill each other for the
yeah,
next game or two.
yeah. And speaking of Washington and Montreal, they played today as well. They played game four in Montreal, and the excitement, the atmosphere was there in Montreal. But
Not the
again,
result for the
not the
Canadians.
result. The Canadians were leading 2-1 in the second period, but they gave up 4 goals in the third period, and against a team like Washington, who has got the firepower. They proved they're leading they led the East
They're an
in
elite
the
team.
standings. Yeah.
They're an elite team. I mean, they are an elite team. They're very good. They made the right moves this offseason, and obviously Ovechkin's been a factor in the series. He's got 3 goals in the series, so he's
Hmm.
scored a lot more than he did last time when they played the Rangers in round one last year. But they're just their whole team. You look at it from top to bottom, defensive, goaltending. The Caps have been better for the most part. I think the only way that the Canadians have probably been the better team is their top line because that first line has been really good. But I mean, I had the Habs winning the series because I really thought their speed could really take Washington away and
Yeah.
their defensive structure, and it really hasn't. I mean, the Canadians played good in Washington. They could steal the game there, but that's again going to be really tough. But I have more faith in them winning in Washington than like I do like Jersey winning in Carolina. I think that's still going to be a really interesting game. And I mean, again, Montreal doesn't want to go back, or sorry, Washington doesn't want to go back to Montreal
No.
3-2 up because now that crowd has been probably the best atmosphere in the playoffs with how loud they were after for game three, and the animosity with the bench fight in game
Mhm.
three and game four. The uncertainty of the goaltenders, both of them. Obviously, Montembeau didn't play.
Right.
I'm not sure if I didn't watch the game really. Was it Thompson that played or was it Lindgren? Because I know Thompson practiced this morning, but I'm not sure
I see. Let me see here.
if he played.
Let me
I'm
see.
assuming he played, but
I'll get to that in a second. I
I
got to
know poor
find.
statistician I didn't watch. Yeah, that game was a 5-2 final. Let's see, and it was Thompson that played this game.
Yeah,
So
Thompson did play it. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, but the Habs only had 18 shots, so that's not the recipe for success.
No.
Meanwhile, uh, Washington had 24, so not a high shot volume. And I think I said this the other day when we recapped Game 3 that this series has not had a lot of shot totals in it. Really, they've been pretty low in the 20s. maybe teens, but it's been a very entertaining series. But yeah, the Habs got to play strong in Washington to try to bring it back, and Washington's gonna try to keep that at bay. That was a 5-2 final,
Right.
and then now the game that recap or ends the night this weekend of 8 games of playoff hockey this weekend, and this last game ended it for us was the Edmonton and LA game, and again as you see on there, Edmonton tied it at 2. A game that LA controlled for the
Yeah.
first 50 minutes of the
Hmm.
game, where they were up 3-1, and then the Oilers came back in the third. Bush had 2 goals. The first one, thank their lucky stars they got that one, because that was a crazy bounce off of Doughty's
Yeah, off of
leg,
Downey's leg.
and
Yeah.
then he tied it up with less than 30 in the game, and then he went to OT, and we just talked about this before we went live, that Darcy Kemper stood on his head in that
Oh
overtime,
man.
made 20 some odd saves, and uh, he honestly
It's,
probably could have made that save against Draisaitl if he weren't down on the ice trying to find the
yeah.
puck. But Draisaitl wins it on the power play. Uh, to me, I was surprised the refs really put their whistles away in this game at the end. Like tons of missed
There was
stuff both ways that they could have called and didn't, and then finally they called that one on the trip on McDavid, which I think out of all of them, watching the ones they missed, I feel like that one wasn't as bad as the ones they missed.
yeah.
But I think they had to do something because they'd missed so many. Uh, you know, Great win for the Oilers. Obviously, I know you're happy about that. But I talked to you about this before we started. The whole team's got to play, because for the most part, this has been the McDavid Draisaitl show,
Yeah.
and that's going to be a problem for them if they can't break out of that, because really, other than OT, obviously tonight, I didn't notice a lot of these guys this series so far. Like Trent Frederick, even
Hmm.
Janmark, Henrique, I haven't really noticed him. Uh, Connor Brown got the empty netter the other day, but these guys, other than lines 1 and 2, haven't really produced, and that's got to change. But that's the only thing I think that you really harp on for the Oilers, because the Kings' whole lineup has been better, but the
Yeah.
Oilers' best players have stepped up when they need to
Well,
so far.
and the problem again tonight for the Kings was in the third period they sat back and they
Yeah, I'm
didn't
not sure
attack.
why they did that. I really
They
don't.
sat
I
back and
mean,
played that prevent defense that
yeah,
lost the
they're
game
trying to clog
the other
up the
night.
new. Well, they're trying to clog up the neutral zone, because they almost do the. I feel like they do hybrid like 1-3-1,
Hmm.
but you've got basically like a 1 and then a 2 and then one elevated and one behind. It's
Yeah.
like a football, like almost like a football defense. You got a safety in the back, and then you got your defense, your blockers. But they're trying to clog up the zone, the neutral zone, because they're
Hmm.
trying to prevent the Oilers from skating in, which I do give the Kings credit. They've done a good job of keeping them away from being able to skate in, really. They get a lot of those passes and or those moves, and they're able to stick check, but I mean, they sat really far back, and they didn't have to do that. They could have
No.
kept pressing, and defensively, really, the Kings haven't given them much of anything where they've given them they've made a mistake defending and given them an odd man. They haven't done that much. So I'm
No.
not sure why they stopped. And then the big play that really turned everything was a missed clearing attempt by
Hmm.
Byfield there, because he could have just aired it out, and the
He
Kings
could
could
have
have
went
gotten
off
the
the board.
change.
He could have went off
He
the board
he
and
had
down the
plenty of time.
ice.
He honestly had plenty of time. He probably could have skated it up and lofted it trying to score,
Yeah.
because there was nobody in front of him, but he tried to get it off the boards, and that's it. I mean, that's a series changing, altering
Yeah.
play. You look at the challenge from the other game, this missed zone exit, but again, it's a best of three, and in a situation that it's been before. The Oilers are tied in a series at 2, and as are the Kings, and I mean, you give the edge probably to Edmonton because the experience of the team. You got McDavid, Draisaitl, I
Mhm.
mean, the unstoppable force, but again, this is one of those games you leave it now that the game's done and move on, because you've got to win. You've got to win in LA,
Yeah.
if not at least once, if not twice, depending what happens these next three.
Hmm.
So you know, force LA to sit back if they can, and try to get the rest of the guys involved on the offense. That's
Yeah.
going to be the key for the Oilers and the Kings. If they want to win, they can't sit back anymore, because it proved ineffective for them. They gave up so many shots the last 30 minutes of the game, and that's not going to be
Yeah.
their way to win.
And again, like we looked at have talked about the power plays for both teams, and the Kings went 0 for 3 tonight. The Oilers were 2 for 3. They've gotten their power play kind of figured out, and they've gotten Corey Perry on the power play as opposed to Zach Hyman, which I think is
I think I like that physical
I like
presence
that.
that he brings to the front of the net.
He does, and Calvin Pickard gets a second win in a row,
Mhm.
and I just think he faced there was 41 shots, so he stopped 38 of them.
38.
I just think Pickard's got the hot hand. You got to keep going with him until it comes up to the point
Yeah.
where he does a bad game, and he didn't really have a bad game.
No,
He
he
gave up
didn't.
the first couple of goals in the first period, but then settled himself down.
Yeah.
He didn't have a lot of
He didn't have an
the
activity in overtime. There were like 8 shots he got that
yeah, seven,
overtime,
seven.
and
And he didn't have the quality of shots that Kemper had to face. But still, you have to face shots. He took 38 shots. He stopped.
yeah,
So I think again, you just keep things going. You keep Pickard in the net. The defense played a hell of a lot better the last couple of games than they did in the
sorry.
first couple of games.
I
And
just
then
go ahead.
you're right, and you're right. The bottom six guys have got to come up and start making a name for themselves. But the Oilers go back now to LA tied 2-2, and it looked bad for the Oilers, like you said, for the first 50 minutes, and
Oh
then
yeah, and I mean the game could have ended anywhere. I mean the
yeah,
Fiala had that shot in the third at the end to hit the
mm-hmm.
post that
Yep,
was they could have ended the game right there. I mean it would have been 4-2, and but yeah, I mean again the Kemper he played so good. Like
mm-hmm.
he was the reason it went that long, really, that overtime, and uh, I mean thank God the Oilers won it there because I really just had that gut feeling that if they wouldn't have scored in that power play, this would have been one of those games that he would have just Kemper would have grinded out for him,
Yeah.
and they would have gotten some
Oh, I
fluky,
was sitting there going,
wacky.
the Oilers dominated their overtime, and it would have been some kind of a bad play, and the Kings would have scored, after the Oilers dominated. But that didn't happen. Power play goal by Leon Draisaitl with about minute 40 some odd seconds left in overtime, and the Oilers do tie it. So coming up tomorrow, only a couple of games.
Is three
Couple of
tomorrow
games.
or is it two tomorrow?
Two tomorrow. Two games tomorrow. It's the Lightning and the Panthers in South Florida for Game 4 of that series. That's going to be a 6 o'clock start our time, and then the late game is the Avalanche in Dallas against the Stars. That series is tied 2-2, but I can't really think the momentum has switched over back to Colorado going
Yes,
into
it
this game
has.
against
They
Dallas.
way played Dallas. I think Tampa claws back and ties the series tomorrow, and then I think the Avalanche. I think both road teams win tomorrow.
Yeah, I think you're right. I
The
think both
Avalanche just
teams win
really took that series over in Game 4. Like,
tomorrow.
it's bigger than maybe people think or see because it's a 2-2 going to Dallas, but they way outplayed Dallas
Mhm.
Game 4, like bad. Like it wasn't close.
And you
And
look at the two wins that Dallas has gotten have been in
yeah,
overtime, which could have went the other way.
yeah. Well, I mean, just like the Jets, I mean,
Mhm.
they had to pull Ottinger
Mhm.
after the third goal, which I don't really understand because it was only three, but
Mhm.
try to switch the tide, but yeah, they've got a hole. I mean, they're probably they've got their backs against the wall more than any team, maybe besides the Jets right now. Even though the
Right.
series is tied, they're hanging on by a thread. I mean,
Mhm.
especially with how their season ended, they lost or 8 straight games, and then finally won the two, and then lost again. So really, I mean, 9 out of their last 11 they've lost.
Yeah.
That's not really good.
No. So this is where we are as far as the brackets are concerned. We'll start in the East, and it's so funny how the West and the East are very like the West has the same records, and the East pretty much has the same record. Carolina leads New Jersey 3-1 down. Toronto leading Ottawa thanks to Ottawa's overtime winner the other night, 3-1. Washington tonight after their win, they are up on Montreal 3-1, and then Florida and Tampa Bay are kind of pulling up the rear because they've only played 3 games. But Florida has a 2-1 lead there. Out west, everybody's tied 2-2. Winnipeg St. Louis is tied at 2. Dallas and Colorado, as you just mentioned, tied at 2. Minnesota and Vegas tied at 2. And thanks to the overtime winner tonight, the Oilers and Kings are tied at 2. And that game for the Oilers is Tuesday night in LA. So again, we'll be on after that. So I'm assuming that's going to be a late game. We'll be on after the game tomorrow
which at least shouldn't be too late if like 11:30 if
Yeah,
that
it's gonna be
starts
about
in.
because it's gonna start tomorrow night's game in Dallas starts at 8:30 our time. So
Did it not get
uh,
overcome?
we'll be on after the game is over with our wrap up. So that's going to do it for tonight because it's getting pretty late here. It's almost quarter to one here
12:40.
in San Antonio. So thanks, Carson, and thanks to the Refocus Radio Network. You'll be able to get the our wrap up show on the Best Boys Center Ice podcast YouTube channel coming up soon, and also you can we'll re we'll reshare this live here later on Facebook, and again we'll be back again tomorrow night after the Stars Avalanche game for the 2025 Best Boys Center Ice podcast Stanley Cup wrap up. And
Yep.
in the meantime, and in between time, everybody have a great hockey night.
But
Bye, son.